Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. So glad you're here with us on our third show. We have special guest, Coach Yvonne Sanchez from New Mexico. And now she's out in Arizona. Coach, glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Jason, for having me on.
Awesome. So I wanted to just kind of kick off. Can you share with the audience a little bit about your connection to New Mexico, just kind of growing up and a little bit athletically as well?
Sure, I was born in Los Alamos. My dad was a police guard for the lab, and from there, I grew up. You grew up in. I was born in the '60s. You grew up in the '70s. There's not really a lot of female sports, so you had to play baseball with the boys. You had to play basketball with the boys. Title IX had just come into law, but really wasn't enforced. So it's been a great childhood in Los Alamos. It really did. Moved to Albuquerque, I think in 1982. My dad got a job with the Department of Energy and went to El Dorado High School, played for probably the best coach in New Mexico history, in my opinion, both at the college and high school level. And was able to coach for 35 years. What was it, 8 at the high school level and whatever else, 28, 29 at the college level. So retired a year ago, finished up at ASU and just been doing a lot of different things.
Excellent. So, as you got into coaching, can you talk a little bit about, and you touched on Coach Flanagan, but a little bit about leadership and your first leadership opportunity?
It's funny because my first coaching job was a high school job. It was called Academy of Our Lady of Peace, and it was a small Catholic school in San Diego. So that was 1989, 90, my first season. And in November, we won the CIF championship that year. I had a boatload of seniors, and we'll talk leadership. But I was 21 years old when I got that job. I had seniors that were 18 and 19 years old, and they were good enough to win a CIF championship. So between what they brought in the leadership role in the locker room and kind of my inexperience, but a little bit of the leadership role that I brought in, just learning from Coach Flanagan and my college coach, Cassie Ucias at US International, we were able to do that. And that team was inducted into the school's Hall of Fame in November. So it was great to
Oh
go
my
back
gosh.
to that. So I had every member but one made it because she was working at the UC in Beirut. So I hadn't seen those kids in 35 years. And to be
Wow.
inducted in the Schools Hall of Fame was awesome. We had a great ceremony and it was a lot of fun. But leadership works both ways. You, as a head coach, will gain a little bit of leadership because you're the head coach, but you also have to empower the people that you coach into leaders as well. Because if it's a dictatorship, it just doesn't work.
Right. Can you talk a little bit? You mentioned got in there at a young age. And this audience that we have on the show are a lot of student athletes that are looking to maybe get into leadership as they go into college and professionally. What were some of the things that you did to differentiate yourself as a leader amongst leaders, I guess, so to speak?
As a leader and as you continue to grow, because you never stop growing in any coaching position, a head or assistant, but it's the empowerment of your people. If you empower the people that you lead and make them leaders, it's not a you're not being threatened. You just have to empower them, and they'll run through a wall for you. And that's the biggest thing is to help them define their roles. There are some non-negotiables as a head coach. You have to compromise, but not to the extent of your non-negotiable. And your kid, you have to establish that early. But and there'll be some push pull. It's not marital bliss by any means, but I think they know if you invest in them, even if you have to be hard on them, then they'll understand that. Maybe not then, but they'll continue to understand that as they grow into leaders.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big proponent of relationship based leadership, and in athletics, obviously, those relationships are so critical. Can you talk a little bit about your career pathing? So you started there in San Diego. What was your next step in leadership?
Sorry, you've got the barking dog up here.
That's okay.
So when I graduated from college, I graduated with a psychology degree. So I wanted to work with kids. So I was working at a group home for probation kids under 18. And then from there, I got the job at Our Lady of Peace. So I couldn't do both with that company. So I had a really good friend who I played against at University of San Diego, that's pro, who was working at a place called New Alternatives. So they were the kids put in protective custody, the older kids. So I was able to get a job there, be able to coach, and it was hard, but back then it's the 80s, it's the early 90s. San Diego was not a booming, you could live off the money you were making. So I was able to kind of be a leader in both roles. I was a head coach. I became a program manager, team leader at the facility, and two completely different populations. But nonetheless, you're working with people and it's the same thing. So the career path came from OLP. We were very successful. I had great kids, so good players make you very successful as a coach. And then from there, I was able to get an assistant job at New Mexico State. And that was, I think, 1993, 94 season. So again, I was able to be part of Anita Maxwell's career, who just got inducted into the New Mexico Hall of Fame. She has her jersey retired at the New Mexico State University. And when you work with players like that, it just makes you become a better coach because you have to challenge them and yourself on how to get them better.
Absolutely. Would you coin yourself as a player's coach? I mean, is it safe to say that?
I don't know what that means, honestly, because I was a little hard on players, maybe more so than usual. But I also cared about them, and I still keep in touch with the majority of them. I mean, not everybody's going to like you. So I'm sure there's a few players as an assistant and as a head coach that probably are better off not saying hi or whatever. But the majority of those people I still see. I see a lot of my New Mexico kids still. I still stay in touch with them. Their birthdays, whatever significance, they stay in touch with me. And then the New Mexico State kids do. I was at San Diego State a year. New Mexico, obviously, 16 years. Michigan for 3 years, still stay in touch with those kids. And then the Arizona State kids for 3 years. So, the more you grow into this profession, probably the better you are at empowering them to be successful in whatever they choose to do. So my success is the success of your players and how well they're doing now.
Excellent. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to dive into Coach Sanchez's experience at UNM and her deep ties to New Mexico.
Clock at 3.
Uh-oh.
And look at him, scored free. Takahashi has speed to burn. Nobody's going to chase him. Is there any laundry on laundry day today? No, it's a touchdown
95-yarder.
for Micah Takahashi.
Far side. Give and go. Here's a run. They cross it into the net, and it is a goal to win the championship.
Back to pass. Looking. Has some time, and he's hit. He has Ramirez. He jukes. He stiff arms. He's in! He's in! 3 missed Rams tackles allows a Dalen Ramirez touchdown.
First and 15, Cavadia flips it out into the right flat. Room, look out. One man to beat. Down the right sideline, could be gone. And no one's going to catch
That's going to be an 80-yard touchdown on the game's second play.
Just mitigate disaster.
Little indoor football strategy.
Yes.
I like that. They will go with the directional squib there. It's recovered by the Knights. Caldwell.
39-yard line, but you never know.
Gonzalez, one heave, down the sideline, has a man in the double coverage. Did he catch it? Did he make that play? No signal yet. They're talking it over. Touchdown! Oh my goodness!
On the 17. And Martin back to pass. He's got time. He's going to flip it over the middle. That's a catch. And still on the scene, breaking free and scoring. Touchdown, Albuquerque High.
Martinez with the ball. Martinez kicks it back. Watch out, overpowered. Stolen away. Here comes St. Pius looking for their second. Trying to make the move on the defender. Cuts it in. Oh, Ole fires it. Score! Ethan Wright abuses the defense.
Two running backs in the backfield. Hollis goes in motion. Stitt keeps it himself. Foot race to the goal line. Stitt makes a man miss. On his feet. Touchdown, St. Mike's. Kamal Stitt runs it in from 10 yards.
On this side of the pond, it's 0-0. Fired over. Uh-oh. That header into space. Watch out. Hamill. Graves. It squeaks in.
Warren goes quickly up to Byers. Byers catches it! Jack Byers ties the game! Kick is up, and the Bulldogs go ahead with 24 seconds to go.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible. For over 20 years, Evergard Roofing and Solar has been committed to customer service. Locally owned and operated, Evergard offers both commercial and residential roofing and solar services. For more info, please call 505-821-9543. Evergard Roofing and Solar are proud supporters of ProView Sports Network and New Mexico Youth Athletics.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We're on our third show of the Ascent Leadership show, and we have on here special guest Coach Yvonne Sanchez. And so, Coach, thanks for joining. So I want to jump in a little bit and dive into your experience at UNM. What a tremendous opportunity that you have there, that you had there. And can you explain a little bit to the audience how you got the opportunity and what it was like coaching at the Pit?
Yeah, absolutely. I was working at San Diego State, and they had an opening. So I had called Coach Flanagan, and I'm sure he did his due diligence. I'm sure it probably wasn't his first choice, but there was a lot of people and there was a lot of interest. But I was fortunate enough that he hired me, and I just really thought, back then you're young, you know, I knew the recruiting game very well. I wanted to get better at the X and O's and to learn from the best. And you know, Coach Flanagan was very, very, he was very clear. There was one voice and one voice only, and that was his. And, you know, that obviously is why he's so successful. But as, you know, the time grew on and you did scouting reports and, you know, was able to at least, you know, suggest some things, you know, it's up to him to take it or leave it, but it's up to you to just kind of, you know, go with that. But it was just probably, people don't understand. I mean, everybody says women's basketball, you know, you have the crowds now, you have this, that, and the other. We had the crowds back then. it's great that now you get the W, you get college basketball, and they're having 14, 15,000. But Coach Flanagan had that his first year, and then his second year we had 18,000, and did some NITs. We sold it out in I think 2 hours, the fastest sellout in the pit when we played
Amazing.
Ohio State in the championship game of the NIT. And then once the Mountain West started becoming what it was, with UNLV, with Colorado State, with BYU, Utah, TCU. I mean, we had 4 or 5 ranked teams at the time, and we were getting 4 or 5 bids at the time. But the bigger games would get 18,018 until they redid the pit and put all those suites in. But it was just remarkable. The crowd, the Sweet 16, the NCAA tournament, first and second rounds there. It's undescribable, and people who remember know, and I'm just happy that women's basketball and girls basketball has kind of followed suit, and people are starting to take an interest and watch, and the crowds are bigger and bigger, and I think that's just tremendous.
That's awesome. So in my experience in leadership, there's a lot of different leaders that I got to surround myself with. There was a lot of resources that were dedicated to us. And one of the books that always stood out to me, maybe you've read it, it's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it really just talks about how you have to evolve as a leader.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious, as you progressed in your coaching career, maybe when you got to UNM and then on to Michigan and so forth, how has your leadership style evolved over the years?
You adapt with what's there, so I mean, you get to meet leaders all the time, and with athletic directors, with senior women's administrators, with all of that. And when you're going through those phases and trying to adapt to better your program, better yourself, better your head coach, whatever it may be, you still look up to some of those leaders. I mean, I think Rudy Davalos was one of the best leaders and best athletic directors UNM's ever had. He really put stock into Coach Flanagan, and he really put stock in the women's basketball program. So, he was just tremendous, and he was just a tremendous person. That I think back to him a lot when I think about the success of women's basketball at UNM. But you have to do things the right way. You can be a leader and win, but if you don't do things the right way, no one's going to respect you.
Absolutely.
And the biggest thing is you want to be liked or respected. So my personal belief is you want to be respected. Anybody can be liked, but when you just don't do things the right way, it's just very difficult to be a leader or to be a respected leader in that. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of them, but Rudy Davalos sticks out, and obviously Coach Flanagan. But to evolve, you have to evolve with how things are going. Basketball in 2000, when I first got to UNM, to 2026 now, is much different. I mean, players are being paid. Back then, you still had to find ways to help players because a lot had money or had different things. There were still rules in place, so you had to adapt to be able to help them, but not go against, what the NCAA wants or has as a rule. UNM, it was a much easier time because it was a much simpler time, honestly. But moving on to Michigan, it's a higher level. The expectations were a lot higher, and I say that in terms of being a Power 5. UNM's expectations were extremely high. Our expectations was the NCAA tournament every year, and if we didn't get that, then it wasn't a failure, but that was just the expectation. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. It was that way with Coach Flanagan. I had it as a head coach, and trying to get the schedule to get to the NCAA tournament, because back then, with Coach Flanagan, it was 4 or 5 bids. When I took over, it was 1 bid, maybe 2, but I don't remember ever being 2 bids. So you had to kind of evolve your schedule into trying to get in that large bid, and it works or it doesn't work. Sometimes your schedule's too hard and you beat up your kids, and that's what you have to evolve and adapt in. But getting to Michigan and getting at a Power Five and all the resources that we had there, way more than we ever had at New Mexico. Your expectation is not only the NCAA tournament, but Sweet 16, Elite Eight, Final Four. And I think from when I got to Michigan and where they are now, the expectation is a Final Four. They're really, really good this year. But it was incredible to coach people like Haley Brown, Naz Hillman, Leah Brown, Danielle Roush, some of those that laid the foundation at Michigan for what it is now. That was an exceptional time, and the crowds and different things like that. To Arizona State, where they had a icon in Charlie Turner Thorne that I worked for a year, and after she retired, it was kind of okay. Well, you almost have to start over. And I worked with Natasha Adair for 2 years, but it just wasn't the same because, quite frankly, the NIL and rev share were starting to pop up. They were trying to figure out the money. There really wasn't a lot when I coached there. There's a lot now, which is good for Molly Miller and her program. And it's the administration having to adapt as well as you as a coach having to adapt, because if there's no money, there's no players, and you're not going to have a team. You just aren't, especially at the Power Four level.
No, well said. Well, we're going to take another break, and when we get back, I want to dive into some of the tactics that maybe you can leave for these student athletes on giving and receiving feedback. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're up to now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Jimmy John's toasted sandwiches take the fresh baked bread you love and turn up the heat to toasted perfection. Crispy and golden on the outside, melty and gooey on the inside. Order a toasted sandwich at Jimmy John's today.
Albuquerque's leader in sports is Pro View. From pros to prep, all your favorite action. All your favorite talk shows. Find it on Pro View Networks.
High school sports are back. You can watch every ProView Network broadcast online on the NFHS network. Every moment from every game from every sport, including all NMAA state championship games. Get your monthly pass now. Just go to ProViewNetworks.com, click on the NFHS logo, and sign up today. Watch New Mexico's best.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
I was born in New Mexico. I grew up on these streets. I got in trouble here, and I fought my way back in boot camp. I love New Mexico, especially the people. Now I'm using my training, tenacity, and energy to fight for you. I'm Adam Oki, lawyer, fighter, and New Mexican. I was a local athlete here in New Mexico, so I'm proud to support your local athletes.
Okay, we are back here with Coach Yvonne Sanchez, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tactical sides of leadership. We have a lot of student athletes here in New Mexico that are going to be watching this show. So, Coach Sanchez, can you talk a little bit about what's kind of the appropriate way for student athletes to receive feedback and then give feedback, from the context of a leadership standpoint, whether it's their coach giving them feedback or kind of that peer level? How do you view the best way to do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of good athletes coming out, and I just saw some good ones from New Mexico, and Tamaya Gary and Harper Dunn's another one, and Abby Pavia. So then there's more, but I got a chance, this summer to watch Tamaya and Abby, and I've been following Harper. But, the biggest thing for them is, and for the coach, when you're coaching high level athletes like that, it's very important to know where they're coming from, but it's also very important to have them know, look, as a coach, this is how I'm going to get you better. It's very important to have a plan. So you can't just say, do what I say because I know what I'm doing. That's not, I mean, that's never been successful for me. Every time I've recruited a kid or worked with a high level kid, this is what I see on film, watch film with me. This is how I feel you can get better. And this is what the plan in place is. Here's some of the things that we're going to do on a one-on-one level. Here's some of the things I want you to do. Maybe if you go 3-on-3, 5-on-5, what you look for. But if you don't have a plan and you're dealing with high level kids, it's just not going to work. But if you're dealing with probably any kid, you have to have a plan in place for how you're going to develop them and get them better. Not just get out on the court and say, hey, we got up 500 shots today. Well, were they game shots? Are they just standing and shooting? Are they on the move? Are they off screens? How are we doing this? What kind of offense do you have in place so we can get shots from the offense? So they're not hesitant. So I think the biggest thing is on a one-to-one level with high-level athletes is you have to have a plan for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then what would you say maybe some of the pitfalls for receiving feedback that student athletes are going to want to stay away from, even if it's just one or two that come to mind?
I mean, I don't know. I think the negative approach is a bad approach. I think kids right now want to question everything, or there's a lot of people in their ear. I think what players have to do is really get to a place where they trust maybe one or two people. Because when you're a really good player, everybody wants to latch onto you and say, oh, I worked with this kid and we did cone drills and we did this. And
right.
And nobody cares about that. I think kids really have to establish one or two people, that they can actually trust that they're developing and getting them better. Because when there's a lot of people in your ear, you don't know what to listen to, and then you feel bad, and then, it just gets to be too much.
Sure.
So you can't worry about hurting people's feelings because it's your life and it's your development. But you really have to trust the people that are standing beside you. And what is their motivation? Is their motivation to actually help you, or do they want to take your money? Do they want to latch onto you? What is their motivation for trying to, get you in a place where ultimately you want to be?
Yeah, no, well said. Well said. Well, we have about a minute or so left. Can you tell the audience what you're doing and what you're up to now? You have a lot of exciting stuff going on, and I'd love for you to share with the audience.
It's fun. I say I'm retired, but I worked the Nike EYBL circuit. So I did the Arizona circuit. I didn't do New Orleans because my niece graduated from ASU. I did the Vegas and Chicago circuit with the national championship. So, Nike's a very, very high level in girls basketball in the EYBL circuit. So that's a lot of fun because you see a lot of high level players in games. I do some advanced scouting with the Minnesota Lynx. So that entails quite a lot of things, but I'll go to the Mercury games and they'll tell me scout Mercury, scout the Sparks, scout whoever. So I get to do that. So, and then I follow, my former player, Naz Hillman, who plays for the Atlanta Dream. I had her at Michigan. So her and I stay in touch quite a bit. And I really love the progression of the Dream and what Naz Hillman's done in the W. And that's a lot of fun. And then I play a lot of pickleball.
Awesome.
I try to stay in shape. I need to stay in shape. So that's a lot of fun for me.
Love it. Well, I just want to say, one, I think you're great for the game. You're an amazing leader. Most importantly, I think you're a great person. I've always appreciated our relationship, and thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you, Jason, and whatever you need, you let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. That's it for today on the Ascent Leadership Shows. Thank you for your time.
Have a good day, everybody.